Hello and welcome on the Barricades. My name is Boyan Stanislavski and this is another edition of our program. And as yesterday, I'm coming to you from downtown Sofia. It's 8:15 a.m. in the morning. It's Saturday, the 2nd of April. And I'm on my way to work. I just had my morning coffee. And before I get to work, I thought I will make this short video because of the news coming. Oh, and it's going to be a working weekend for me, like pretty much anytime I come down here to Sofia. I will make this short video because I wanted to comment on the war vis-a-vis the yesterday's event, which was the successful attack carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces on fuel depots in the town of Belgorod, which is located 36 kilometers approximately from the Russian-Ukrainian border on Russian territory. And it's an event that has sent shockwaves through the Russian public opinion, at least judging by what I read early this morning in the Russian media. Wow, I mean, there are even elements of panic in the general discourse. People are asking questions, and let alone the journalists and the reporters, but people in the comment sections and some of the articles, they are asking questions like, what the hell, are we losing now? Was the West right? And stuff like that. And I thought that it makes sense to use this opportunity, to use this occasion to discuss the kind of Russian approach that we know so little about. But there are some facts which are completely undisputable, I would say, and which deserve a commentary. And this is what I intend to provide. Now, first of all, I want to say that this is obviously a disaster. I mean, this thing for the Russians to get attacked by the Ukrainian military, of which they spoke in with such a contempt and with such a they looked down on it in a very humiliating manner before the war started. And then Putin also delivering his rather weird and unhinged speeches before the 24th of February, that is before the day this, what they call a special operation to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine begun. He called the Ukrainian government, Ukrainian authorities, a bunch of drug addicts and idiots and what have you. And now this. And also prior to this war, and prior to the escalation that led to the war, I remember making this point many times over, that Russia is now prepared to face any enemy in a way that there will never be any more war on Russian soil, on Russian territory. And he kept repeating that for the last I don't know how many years. And well, Vladimir Vladimirovich, so much for never again war on Russian territory. I think that we should not really attach too much importance to this because, this is just a one-off event, and obviously the Russian army is going to. We should not attach too much importance in terms of military development of the situation, because quite clearly the Russian army is going to be able now to secure or strengthen the security of those areas in the vicinity of the border, or I know some other areas they're probably going to examine their defense options, and things like options are going to be put in place to prevent such things happening in the future. But the thing is that we have now those two narratives, one coming from the West and one coming from the East, The one that, the Western narrative, I have spoken many times about it, and I really find it to be utterly ridiculous. To claim that the Russian army is losing big time and that the Russian soldiers are demoralized and drunk and they're all running away, living behind their most modern equipment. That makes no sense. This is straight up lies. But also the Russian narrative is lifeful, and it's not helping. And it's not helping to understand the situation. It's not helping to understand where the Russian army is going. It's not helping to understand what are really the objectives, what are the end game, what is the end game. I think that the Russians are in a much better situation than the West, and they can afford not to lie to their public opinion because everybody is behind them in Russia. So they don't have to lie. They don't have to pretend. But they do. And moreover, they do it in a very clumsy way. The Russians have no idea of PR, marketing, kind of skillful communication and stuff like that. They have no idea. As my colleague, Maria Chernat, who's a media theoretician, stressed a few times on our programs, the Russians, they never had to do things like that. They never had to sort of manipulate the public opinion into, supporting this or that political force. They've never operated in conditions of liberal democracy, right? So they didn't have to develop those skills. And, today they're losing the information war hands down, obviously. But I'm talking about the global information war here. But what is much worse is that, the Russian public opinion will start to see through that, or they already see through that, or they keep supporting the Russian authorities and the Russian army despite the fact that they know they're not being treated fairly. And I think this is just provoking irritation, which will come to its boiling point at one moment, and people are just going to stop rallying behind Putin and his administration and the Russian army if occurrences like that keep happening. And I don't know to what extent they realize that, because quite honestly, when I look at what they're doing, not militarily, but in terms of communicating their achievements, or supposed achievements. When I follow, for example, the briefings of the Russian Ministry of Defense, and it's just getting increasingly annoying. Like, first of all, this guy, this general that provides those briefings every evening, unfortunately I forgot his name, but someone should replace him with someone more communicative, if that's a word. Someone who really can communicate things better. This guy looks like he had just swollen a stick, and the way he speaks. Actually, if you had a computer-generated automatic speech, I think it would be more convincing and kind of more inspiring than this guy. And also, those claims that are being enforced on the public opinion, that everything is going good, everything's going according to plan, every thing is predictable, and every situation that we're in was part of our strategy, of our tactics. The phase one of the operation was completed absolutely successfully. No mistakes were made. This is just so utterly stupid. This is really intelligence offending discourse. And I can understand that the Westerners think about Russians that they are stupid, but why would their own government think that about them? This is something that I don't quite understand, especially that, the Russian public opinion, the Russian society has demonstrated that they are able to go kind of, out of their way to make sacrifices and to support this military operation, and to, to endure all kinds of hardships, related to sanctions and the isolation of Russia and so on. And they're getting this. And at one moment this is going to become very, very difficult for the Russian authorities to manage, I'm afraid. But that's their problem. I don't know how they want to deal with this, and if they really have any idea how to deal with this. What I'm going to say is that they should have been much more transparent, in my opinion, about it. Of course, not revealing their tactics and strategies and what they're going to do here or there, what object are they going to destroy, or what object or what place where they're going to attack. Not those details, of course. But we really have no idea about what do they want. They said they want to Nazify, or Putin said they will denazify and demilitarize Ukraine, and it was defined very vaguely, but I guess it's supposed to mean that they're going to limit the capacity of the Ukrainian armed forces to the extent that they pose no threat whatsoever to the Russian Federation, and they're going to eliminate those far-right battalions, militias, whatever you want to call them, the Azov guys, Aidara guys, C-14 Tornado, and all the rest of this gang. But apart from that, we really have no idea. Like, for example, take the territories that were taken over by the Russian military. What is supposed to happen now? Like, okay, the front is moving forward, and a vacuum is being left behind. And there were already reports, some of which I find credible, that in those abandoned towns, villages, and places, abandoned in a sense that the Russian army just went through and then kept moving forward, that Ukrainian authorities are re-emerging with the help of some local militias, territorial defense, and stuff like that, because the Russian army has come in and gone, and that's it. And things are just left behind like this. And not only it is dangerous because it's a restoration, okay, of let me tell you something before I continue this thought. So behind me you can see Sofia's biggest, most important sightseeing spot, the Cathedral of Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. It's built as a kind of thank you gesture to the Russian soldiers liberating Bulgaria in 19th century, the end of 19th century. There's a lot I could tell you about this church, but I don't have time right now, so we're gonna get back to this spot a little later on, and I promise I will give you a more detailed explanation about this object. So the Russian troops move on, and behind them there's this vacuum, which there are cases, as I said, that the Ukrainians are restoring their power there, which, it clearly makes no sense. I just don't understand how you would not create some kind of military civilian administration, temporary at least, so that you can, secure your back. I'm not a military expert. I have no idea how those things, should be working. What is the art here? What are the golden standards, so to say? But quite clearly, this was a terrible mistake. Not to do that. Then the question of, for example, the surrounding of Kiev. Again, like, they surrounded the city, but they never took it over. Most likely, some of our guests who really know about war and warcraft pointed out that the Russians have hoped to carry out some kind of quick decapitation strike within the first 72 hours or something, and just take over Kiev and create like conditions for the emergence of a pro-Russian government or something like that, like this, and it didn't happen. Then some argue also in the Russian and Belarusian media that the major mistake was that they hoped that after the front would move west, that the kind of pro-Russian elements in the Ukrainian elite, which were suppressed during Poroshenko's and Zelensky's term. Behind me you can see the Sofia University, the biggest university in Bulgaria, the main entrance, the main kind of, the main part of the campus, the main building. Let me just sit down here for a while in the park, right across the street from the university. So they probably hoped for the pro-Russian elements in the Ukrainian in the Ukrainian elite to take over, like that certain territories would be, as the Russians say, liberated, and then immediately those people would step in and would create all the kind of alternative power centers that would start to collaborate with Russia, and that would act in accordance with the requirements of the Russian army, and that they would create police and secure some kind of order, so that pathologies like looting wouldn't occur, and other criminal activity would be prevented. But this is not what happened. And again, the Russian authorities, instead of just admitting that they made a mistake, an honest mistake, they thought that the pro-Russian Ukrainians would support this war, or what they call the special operation. They just went like, oh no, they betrayed us. This is an act of treason on the part of those people. Like, guys, you just invaded their country. What treason are you talking about? Those people are just not friendly to you anymore. Like, after 80 years of living in this kind of Ukraine, in Ukraine, which you yourself have described as like, far-right, Nazi, anti-Russia, at the doorstep of Russia. Like, how in the world is it even possible that you, in your right mind, ever expected that now people are going to cheer on you entering their homes with machine guns in your soldiers' hands? Like, I can't quite wrap my head around this. But again, perhaps there's something I don't understand here, and it's also, my conclusions are also based on a certain lack of knowledge that the Russian side could have provided. They could have informed the public opinion in Russia, the international public opinion, that our objectives here and there are such and such, we're going to be doing this and that. And, like, they could have at least in a vague manner described the technical endgame of this special operation, okay? And actually, even the notion of special operation, why would you do that? Why do you don't have to lie. You can just go, you can be straightforward about it. You can say that this is a war against Ukraine, which has been captured by those far-right forces, this nationalistic trends, nationalistic far-right, Nazi, whatever, trends which were unleashed by the 2014 coup, which used to be marginal, or used to be at least suppressed to the extent that they pose no threat to Eastern Ukrainians or to the Russian Federation and so on and so forth. That it's also a war waged on NATO presence in Russia, and that would have made it much easier for you. You wouldn't have to now kind of maneuver and try to find the correct phrases to kind of make it all stick to the initial narrative. Or to the overhauling kind of idea that everything is going all right, everything is going all right. If you had said from the beginning that this is a war, people would have taken much easier that, the territory of Russia in the vicinity of the border has been attacked, and in a successful manner attacked. That is, the depots that were taken out by the by the Ukrainian military in Belgorod. So, because this is a war, and in a war situation, you expect that, yes, well, I mean, okay, you're the attacking side, but the defense of the country or of the whatever the entity that you're attacking, they actually might attack some of your positions, including those positions which are not on the front line, but beyond the front line. And also, if you had admitted from the beginning that you're in war, and you would not, I really sometimes get the feeling that they were deluding themselves, the Russians, like that they are not at war with Ukraine, and they repeated that many times, that we're not at war with the Ukrainian nation, we're not at war even with the Ukrainian army. Well, and now it turns out that they are, like, the the reality had to correct their idea, and I don't quite understand how this is. Why is this happening this way? But okay, that's like, again, I mean, if they had communicated more, I would have had like more to chew on and perhaps analyze and perhaps come to different conclusions. But the conclusions that I can make on the basis of what I see, okay, are exactly those. Like, guys had this plan A, which they thought they're going to end everything within 72 hours, or I don't know, maybe 4 days or something like that, with a quick decapitation strike in Kiev. Then it didn't work, so they thought that they perhaps could somehow like negotiate their way through. That's why they only engaged like a small, tiny portion of their armed forces, and they were hoping to, those armed forces, they were hoping to perhaps, strike a deal here and there with local bureaucrats that they thought are pro-Russian, in Ukraine's east, and that, those bureaucrats would help them perhaps, talk the Ukrainian armed forces located in those regions not to respond to Russians entering to the Russian troops entering those areas. But none of this happened. Like, none of this happened according to the Russian fantasy or idea. The Ukrainians have put up one hell of a fight, and in the first days of the operation, again, according to what I read in the media, I don't know to what extent those reports are correct, but it seems like the initial stage was of this kind of alternative approach that they had to go for, ended in some kind of disaster. Like, many of the Russian troops were ambushed and were just slaughtered, and they had to maybe not necessarily retreat, but they had to regroup, and they had to go for a much more aggressive stance. And before this kind of response, before this experience actually was reported to Moscow, before all the congregations were made there to take the political decision to change the approach and so on and so forth, things were happening on the ground, and I think, I don't know, I don't know for sure, but it seems like they had to, they suffered a lot of losses because of this, because of their naivety and so on and so forth. And one would think, and I thought that okay, well, this didn't work, the other thing didn't work, so we resort to whatever the plan C, plan B, plan D, whatever, the next plan in line that they have had. And I'm not quite sure whether they've actually had the next plan. Now, when I'm looking at things, considering what I said earlier about, the front moving forward, the forces around Kiev surrounding the city, not doing pretty much anything except for, like, taking over the areas around Kiev. But of course, this is just one part of the story, okay? The other part of the story is Mariupol and the region of Ukraine's southeast, where I'm pretty sure that this is where the war is going to be decided. Like, this is where according to reports which seem to be a consensus, like, the Russian media say that, and the Western media some Western media say that as well. The same thing, that is that the Ukrainian forces, the strongest, the most powerful, the most capable elements of the Ukrainian army are located there in Donbass. And you know, it used to be in Mariupol, which is a city completely, totally destroyed now. It's just one wreck of a city, and it's still being cleared from these Azov guys. And again, we had this weird occurrence, like 4 helicopters, 2 of which actually escaped. I mean, they were evacuating those Azov guys, and there are some rumors that there were some Western commanders there, or Western advisors, or I don't know, some Western people. I don't know. I cannot corroborate that. I just, you know, came across this sort of info. But anyway, 2 days ago, 4 helicopters were able to land in Azovstal, which is a huge steel mill in Mariupol, and that's where the remnants of those far-right militias, battalions, teams, whatever, are still defending themselves. And you know, 4 helicopters came to rescue someone, I don't know, maybe all of those people there. And we know that the Russians were only able to take down 2 of those helicopters. And at the same time, the Russian media are claiming, some of the Russian media are claiming that there were some high-ranking NATO people there. So why wouldn't they be able to actually take down all of the 4 helicopters? You know, and again, you know, no admission that, you know, mistakes are being made, losses are being suffered, and all the rest of it. I just don't understand this. Why are the Russians so stubborn not to you know, not to admit those obvious things? So this is where this region, Mariupol and north of Mariupol, where the most capable Ukrainian forces are collected, and this is why I suppose the forces from around Kiev, which are no longer needed there, because obviously the Russians have completely given up on the idea of taking over Kiev. Again, something that is not being communicated, something that I have to somehow, you know, I have to conclude on my own, and I don't know whether this conclusion is correct, but it seems that they're taking those forces, you know, to the south, to the southeast, because they want to encircle, surround, and utterly destroy those elements of the Ukrainian armed forces there. And I think this is going to be a bloodbath. I mean, I think this is going to be a long military struggle with a lot of blood spilled on both sides, and I suppose it's inevitable in a sense that look, I mean, the Russians decided to wage this war. Now they have to finish it in one way or another. And you know, again, I suppose that, you know, once this is finished off, like once this major operation, a major offensive is completed, they're going to move, I don't know, to the south and finish off things around Nikolaev, and probably move to Odessa and create the kind of land corridor to Transnistria. And again, afterwards, I don't know what is going to happen. I don't know what they're going to do about Kiev. I don't know what they're going to do about Ukraine's west. I just, you know, I'm really puzzled. I'm really perplexed by all that is happening there. So probably occurrences like the one that prompted me to create this video, which is the Belgorod incident, and this is probably not going to be repeated. This is not going to be allowed to happen again. But I think this is a major loss in terms of, not so much in military terms maybe. Again, I don't know how important those fuel depots were for from the point of view of carrying out this operation, this war. And it really should be called for what it is. It's war. I mean, I can't wrap my head around, you know, the Russians doing this nonsense, you know, and claiming that this is just like some military operation, you know, we're going to do this and that, and they don't even say exactly what they're going to do. They just vaguely define denazification and demilitarization, and that's it. So when is the demilitarization going to be over? When is the denazification going to be over? I understand that it should be over soon. But okay, let's say the Ukrainian army's capabilities are limited to the extent, to some kind of minimum extent, okay? Let's say that the Azov guys and, their friends from other, IDARs and C-14s and stuff like that are eliminated, killed, destroyed, taken prisoner, or whatever. And then what? Like, what is going to happen afterwards? You're all going to pull out? That's... I'm trying to think about... I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of those people in East Ukraine who are now trembling, probably, not only because of the bombs falling, and missiles, and shelling, and, the situation of war, which is horrible, okay, for them. But if when they don't know what is going to happen, they got to be trembling in their shoes, because one option is that the Russian army, and they might be thinking that the Russian army is just going to pull out at one moment. Well, okay, demilitarization completed, denazification completed, thank you, goodbye, we're back. Now, and then those people, they could just start, hanging themselves. Committing some kind of collective suicide, because I don't even want to think what kind of tortures they're going to be subjected to if the forces, if the official Ukrainian forces, as the Russians like to refer to, the Kiev regime, takes those territories back over. What kind of inferno they're going to cook up for those people there. So. Yeah, I just wanted to use this opportunity to kind of to explain and to signal perhaps my disappointment with, how those things are being handled by the Russians, and that, just to point out that, the Russian narrative is really constructed in a way that no one who observes or is trying to observe the situation in Ukraine closely can believe. I still, don't think that there's any remote chance even that the Ukrainian army would win this war, but nonetheless, I really find it very, very weird for the Russians to behave as they do. Anyway, I'm gonna get to work now. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for joining me on this program, and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.